He's going to kill me, she whispered into the phone. Your voice barely makes it through the static. It's not even shaking anymore. Just hollow, like you've told this story too many times and no one heard it the first. He's going to kill me. That sentence should have made someone freeze. Instead, the voice on the other end just sighs. You sit on the floor of your closet, wedged between old shoes and laundry you haven't folded. One hand clutches the phone. The other hand is pressed against your rib where the bruise is still warm, like it just bloomed there. You whisper the address again. Ma'am, are you hurt right now? No, but he said. Then there's not much we can do if he's not there, right? You can't tell if your heart is pounding from fear or from rage. The dispatcher chuckles softly, as if this is the third prank call of the night. It's not. This is the 6th time this month you've called. Same name, same warning. Each time, they filed it under mental distress. Because when he slams the door just inches from your face, when he whispers threats into your ear just loud enough that your blood runs cold, when he smiles after grabbing your wrists and says, "Who's gonna believe you?" You sound dramatic, not dead. Yet, you met him at a coffee shop on 8th and Hartley. He bought you a drink, told you he liked the way you looked at people like you were waiting for a storm. Back then, storms felt romantic. Now you count his footsteps when he walks down the hall. If it's slow, he's thinking. If it's fast, you hide. You posted a photo last week with makeup layered thick over your eye. People said you looked gorgeous. You deleted it. Felt like a lie. Look, ma'am, if you're not in immediate danger, we can't send anyone out tonight. Just stay calm, okay? The line clicks before you can respond. You stare at the phone. It shows 9:12 p.m. The house is quiet again. Too quiet. The calm always feels like it's mocking you. You start writing a text to your sister. Just one sentence. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. You don't send it. You stare at the screen so long it dims. Your reflection in the glass looks exhausted, like someone living on borrowed time. In the other room, the hallway light clicks on. You hear keys drop into a glass bowl. A jacket hits the floor. And then his voice. You called them again, didn't you? You freeze. Not because he's yelling. He isn't. He's smiling. That's always worse. He sits on the couch, turns on the TV, laughs at something on the screen, and without looking at you, he says, "Next time you call them, I'll make sure you never need to again." You don't respond. You just walk back into the closet, shut the door, and start recording a voice memo, just in case they need proof, or evidence, or motive, but mostly because you know the next time might be too late. The closet feels smaller tonight, not because of the space, but because of the silence outside the door. You can still hear the hum of the refrigerator, the soft static of the TV in the other room, the occasional sip from his glass. But he hasn't said a word since you walked away. And that's worse than yelling. You check your phone again. No text from your sister. No missed call from the dispatcher. No callback. No one. You told them. You begged them. He's going to kill me. They filed it under non-urgent. You play back the voice memo you started earlier. It's mostly silence. Then breathing. Then your own voice, barely above a whisper. This is just in case. My name is Callie James. I live at 232 Wren Hollow Drive. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. It was him. You save it. You name the file. Just in case MP3. You wake up the next morning still in the closet. Neck stiff. Phone dead. You plug it in quietly, glancing toward the hallway. The couch is empty. You hear water running in the bathroom. The door's cracked. He's shaving, humming. You creep past the door to the kitchen. No shouting. No chase. Not this time. Just one note sitting on the fridge in red marker. Don't make a scene. You won't like what happens. On Facebook, Callie's last post was cryptic. Some monsters don't hide under beds. They sleep next to you. There are 43 likes. A few laughing emojis. One comment, LOL girl same. Nobody called. Nobody messaged. People always thought she was dark but funny. Like pain was part of her personality, not her reality. She wanted someone to read between the lines. No one did. Across the street, Mrs. Lindell hears the back door slam. Again. She doesn't look. She's seen Callie out there before. Smoking in her bathrobe, pacing with red eyes, whispering into her phone. Once, she heard a crash and peeked through the blinds. Callie was standing barefoot in the driveway. There was blood on her mouth. Her hand trembled as she lit a cigarette. Mrs. Lindell shut the blinds. "That girl's always so dramatic," she told her husband. "Some people just like attention." That night, Callie packs a small bag. Toothbrush, socks, USB drive, the saved audio file. Her hands are shaking so badly she drops her charger. She types one last message into her notes app. "If you're reading this, I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because no one made him stop. Because no one believed me when I said I wasn't safe. You'll tell yourselves I overreacted. You'll comfort each other by pretending I was unstable. But I was clear. I was loud. And you didn't listen." She hides the USB under the floorboard of her closet. She places her house key in a plastic bag. She doesn't lock the front door when she leaves. Because she's not coming back. Or because she wants someone to find her things. If they ever start looking. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's doorbell cam would later show Callie walking down the sidewalk that night in slippers and an oversized hoodie. No purse. No phone. Just a girl walking into the dark. Looking back only once. At 2:14 a.m., the camera glitches. At 2:16 a.m., it shows the same frame again, empty. She was never seen again. And the voicemail she left at 2:05 a.m. didn't go through. Her phone was found the next morning. Shattered. Face down in the grass. Beside a creek. Still recording. Her phone was found face down in the grass. Still recording. The sound, water, and breathing. The first 24 hours were easy to ignore. People disappear all the time, right? That's what they said. Neighbors saw the porch light still on. The mail untouched. The car unmoved. But no one knocked. Not until the dog barked for hours. Not until the phone, shattered, screen flickering, was found half submerged in mud near the creek, less than a mile from her home. And by then, it was too late to wonder if she was okay. Now the question was, where was her body? Officer Radin read the call log like it was a to-do list. 7 police reports, 3 welfare checks, 2 emergency calls marked unfounded. All from the same woman. All dismissed with the same note. Caller sounded agitated. Possible mental health issue. No visible signs of harm. He hated this kind of paperwork. Emotional, messy, filled with what-ifs. But it was the last line that made his stomach twist. Final call received. July 14th, 9:12 p.m. Status. No patrol dispatched. Callie James wasn't just a distressed girlfriend. She was a pattern. One that got easier to ignore every time she showed up crying with no bruises to prove it. Or worse, when she came in with bruises and still refused to name him. That's how fear works. It doesn't beg. It retreats. It whispers. It warns. And eventually it stops talking. Her best friend Lila stopped talking to her 3 weeks before she disappeared. Callie had posted something on Instagram. An image of a single eye, smeared makeup, captioned, "He only hits what no one else can see." Lila had messaged her, "You okay?" Callie replied 2 days later, "Define okay." That was the last time they spoke. Lila unfollowed her after that. Too much drama. Too many cryptic posts. She assumed it was attention-seeking. Until she saw the news report. Until the detective called. Until they asked, "Do you know who she was afraid of?" And Lila realized. She did. She just didn't want to admit it. The house wasn't broken into, but something felt wrong. The bed was still made. The closet door was open. Inside, a small floorboard pried loose. Under it, a flash drive, a burner phone, a list of dates and times, and one printed note. "If I go missing, don't believe him. Start with this." On the flash drive were 18 audio files. Each one dated, labeled, raw. Clip from May 3rd. He says I breathe too loud. Yesterday he held a pillow over my face and said, "Let's play a game." I didn't laugh. He did. Clip from June 14th. The cops think I'm unstable, but I'm still alive. That has to mean something. Final clip, July 13th. I think he knows I've been recording. I think he's planning something. He watched me while I slept last night. Just stood there, smiling. If this ends badly, I want someone to remember I tried. The phone was cracked, but the backlight still worked. Barely. The last file was corrupted but contained 19 seconds of clear audio. Breathing. Splashing water. Voice, muffled. Don't scream. You wanted this. Rustling. Silence. Then, a low thud. Then nothing. But no body. No blood. Just questions. And the community began to whisper what they never said before. We should have believed her. She tried to tell us. We thought it was just drama. We didn't think he'd actually. But thinking doesn't matter once the victim is gone. The boyfriend, Daniel Rourke, wasn't home when police arrived. He wasn't at work either. He wasn't anywhere. The search began. Flyers went up. News stories aired. A missing woman. A silent suspect. A town writhing with guilt. 5 days after Callie disappeared, they found something. Behind his family's old cabin, 45 miles outside town. Buried beneath a tarp, beneath the roots of an uprooted pine tree. A body, wrapped in her hoodie, hands bound, mouth taped, eyes open. She wasn't dramatic. She was right. They called her dramatic. But now she was dead. And he was calm. Too calm. The moment they found her body, the narrative collapsed. The neighbors stopped whispering. The officers stopped chuckling. The friends who unfollowed her, they posted grief-filled apologies. But apologies don't matter once someone's wrapped in plastic and dirt. And Daniel Rourke didn't run. He didn't cry. He didn't even deny it. When they walked into the gas station 72 hours after the discovery, he was buying coffee. Black, no sugar. He handed over his ID like he was returning a library book. Is this about Callie? Pause. I figured you'd come eventually. White walls. Steel chair. No remorse. The detective pressed record. Daniel pressed his lips into a smile. You think I buried her out there? We found her with your hoodie, Daniel. You know what she used to say? That I was too calm. Like that made me guilty. He laughed. Not loudly. Just with satisfaction. People like her always want to be believed. Even when they lie. Once the press got his name, the headlines exploded. Boyfriend of slain woman once accused in 2017 assault. No charges filed. Community shaken. Police ignored 7 prior reports from victim. Body found behind cabin belonged to woman who cried wolf. Until she didn't. Turns out, Callie wasn't Daniel's first girlfriend to file a report. Just the first to end up buried. Filed a complaint. Controlling behavior, threats, isolation. Moved across state lines 3 months later. Dropped charges after pressure from family. Quote from her journal uncovered later. He never hits me, but I don't think I'll survive him. When reporters tracked her down, Sarah declined to speak. But her sister posted this. Callie wasn't the first. She was just the last before someone listened. The more Daniel spoke, the colder the room became. She recorded everything, didn't she? She always thought she was Nancy Drew with a microphone. But you didn't listen either, did you? You didn't show up. I just helped her prove her point. He looked at the wall, smiled again. You all made me do it. That's when Detective Marlin left the room and vomited in the hallway. Officer Trey Nolan had dismissed Callie's final report. He saw her crying in the hallway that night. Makeup smeared. Fingers trembling. He watches me sleep. He takes pictures I don't see until later. He says he knows how to make people vanish. Trey didn't file it as a priority. He went home, watched TV, slept well. Now he stood at the edge of a burial site with his hands shaking. I thought she just needed attention, he mumbled to the press. They didn't care. Because the photo Callie had taken in secret, left on the flash drive, was more powerful than any press quote. In the photo, a cracked doorway, a man standing in shadow, his face barely visible in the mirror, her eye in the corner of the frame wide, scared. The caption saved beneath it, proof. If I go missing, it was him. He said I could never capture the truth. I think I just did. Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. Her story explodes. The hashtag they called her dramatic. Women flood the comment sections with their own stories. This is why we don't report. The system didn't fail her. It ignored her. She literally predicted her murder and still, nothing. A TikTok clip of her final audio recording gets 7.4 million views in 48 hours. The sound of her whispering, "If anything happens to me, start with him," becomes a trending sound. In the interrogation room, Daniel leans forward. "Do you want to know what her last words were?" The detective doesn't answer. Daniel does anyway. She said, "I knew no one would come." And then she closed her eyes like she'd already practiced it. He shrugs. "I think she rehearsed her death better than I rehearsed the lie." Click. The recorder stops. So does the laughter. They told Marissa to go home. The officer looked at her, not with concern, but with that polite, dismissive glaze people wear when they don't believe you but don't want to argue. "Nothing unusual," he said. "We'll let you know if we hear anything." That was the third time this week. She wasn't reporting a break-in. Not exactly. But her door had been slightly open when she got back. She swore she'd locked it. There was that smell again. Faint, stale, like wet cigarette ash in hospital corridors. She didn't smoke. She lived alone. Still, the cop had nodded, filled a report, and moved on. He didn't know the feeling of waking up at 3:12 a.m., hearing breathing that wasn't yours. He didn't know about the way her TV turned on by itself, always to static. He didn't feel the tightening in her chest when her shampoo bottle moved 2 inches to the left overnight. But she felt all of it, every second. And now, she was starting to question if someone had been in her home long before she noticed. That night, unable to sleep, Marissa sat in the hallway of her apartment. Blankets pulled around her, her back against the wall. She didn't trust her bedroom anymore. Didn't trust her bathroom. The whole place felt occupied, like the silence was hiding something. She sat there, knees to her chest, watching the thin crack beneath her front door like it might blink. That's when she remembered something. The old landlord, Mr. Ellis, the one who owned the building before it was sold, once told her that the upstairs unit had been used for storage. He'd said something about leaving a few things behind in the crawlspace. When she asked what they were, he just laughed. Old junk, forgotten stuff, ghosts and garbage. At the time, she'd thought he was being dramatic. Now it didn't feel like a joke. It was nearly 4 a.m. when she grabbed her phone flashlight and the key Mr. Ellis had given her years ago. The attic door was stiff, creaked like it hadn't been opened in years. Dust exploded into the beam of her flashlight, and her lungs tightened. She coughed, waved the light, and climbed the stairs. The attic was mostly empty. Some broken shelves, a mattress long abandoned, an overturned trunk, a dress mannequin that had lost one arm. It looked like someone had lived here a long time ago, or at least tried to. Then she saw it, tucked beneath the broken bed frame. A diary, not hers, old, blue leather, worn to the spine. She picked it up, and when she opened the first page, her heart dropped so hard, she had to sit down. The handwriting was small and sharp, like someone had been rushing or whispering through pen strokes. And on that first page, written in dark red ink, "She doesn't know I live here. She talks in her sleep. I write down everything. If she stops crying, I'll stop watching." Marissa stared. Her hands were trembling so badly the light from her phone shook against the wall. She flipped through the pages, fast, frantic. Each entry, each word, was about her. Her eating habits, the nights she wore makeup, the time she left the water running, the way she spoke to her ex on the phone, her nightmares, her fears, her passwords. This diary had been watching her. Some entries were written months ago, some from the night before. "She knows I'm near. She asked the officer about me today. I think she's going to find the attic. That's okay. She won't live long enough to regret it. Marissa ran, dropped the book, left the attic door wide open. She bolted back into her apartment, slammed the door, locked it, shoved a chair under the handle. She didn't sleep, couldn't. She called the police at sunrise. But when they searched the attic, the diary was gone. Everything was gone. The mattress, the mannequin, even the smell. The attic looked pristine, untouched. The officers glanced at each other. You sure you weren't dreaming? They said maybe she was under stress. Suggested therapy. Jokingly asked if she watched too many thrillers. She screamed at them, begged them to believe her. They took notes. But in their eyes, she was just another woman, in an old building, with too much time, and too little proof. When they left, Marissa sat on her bed, knees pulled tight to her chest again. She cried silently, until her phone buzzed. A photo. No sender. It was a picture of her, sleeping, taken from the attic vent above her bed. You sit there with the diary open in your lap. The pages are shaking. Not because the air is cold, but because your hands can't stop trembling. It's her handwriting. And somehow, it's worse than anything the police or her neighbors or the medical examiner ever said out loud. Because now she's speaking for herself. If you're reading this, he lied. Not he hurt me. Not he might hurt me again. Not even help me. Just, he lied. The diary is written in a spiral notebook, the kind kids bring to school. The corners are chewed up, ink bleeding through. Each page feels like a whisper from a locked room. And it starts in such an ordinary tone that it makes your heart ache. March 3rd, it was sunny today. He brought me lunch at work. My coworkers think we're perfect. Then another page. March 12th. I don't like when he jokes about disappearing me. He says it in front of people. They laugh. I fake a smile. Flip again. March 21st. I woke up and couldn't breathe. Not from fear. From him, pinning me down, just to talk. And another. April 4th. He said if I ever leave, he'll ruin me. He said no one would believe me. And I think he's right. And then your stomach turns. Because tucked into the spine of the diary is a photo. Polaroid. Slightly bent. Her arms are bruised. Her eyes are smiling. And behind her, in the corner of the mirror, he's standing there. Watching her. Smiling too. You take the diary to the police. The officer flips through it, unreadable. She never filed a restraining order, he says monotone. Was this ever entered as evidence? No, because the diary wasn't found until a week ago. Because her things were packed away, sealed off by the landlord, left to mold in a storage unit no one paid for. Because no one thought to look for her voice, only her body. One entry, dated a week before she vanished, sends chills through your spine. I told him today I'm leaving. He smiled and said, "You'll never get the chance." I laughed, but I believed him. That was the last page. After that, blank sheets. Blank like the space in her closet. Blank like the look on her mother's face when you handed her the notebook. Blank like the answers they keep promising will come. And here's what they don't tell you. The bruises were hidden under long sleeves. The fear was dressed in politeness. The diary, her only safe place, became a eulogy. And yet the headlines say, "Woman vanishes. No signs of foul play." No signs? What about the page that read, "He's already picked out my funeral dress. It's the one I wore to our first date." She told us. In ink, in silence, in every skipped call and flinched movement. She told us, and we ignored her. Until now, you thought the diary would be the end. That her voice, raw, handwritten, desperate, would be the final note in a story already soaked in silence. But it wasn't, because when the detectives re-examined the notebook under UV light, they noticed something scribbled faintly between the margins of the last blank page. The pen wasn't hers. It wasn't loopy or feminine. It was sharp, angular, controlled, like someone used to hiding in plain sight. The writing said, If you found this, congratulations. You cared more than she did. She could have had everything. But she wanted freedom. I gave her peace. You're all just late. Just 3 sentences. That's all. But it changed everything. Because now this wasn't just a diary. It was a crime scene. The last time she was seen was by her neighbor, walking her dog in a pale blue hoodie. She smiled, waved. No one knew it was a goodbye. Hours later, he texted her mother. She's taking a break from everyone. Needs space. Then he posted a photo on her social media. A landscape, fog over a forest. Captioned, "Finally breathing again." Only, the photo was taken 2 years earlier. And the caption? Lifted from a poem she once read out loud to him. When the police searched his cabin by the lake, a property not listed under his name, they found a shallow grave behind the shed. Her body was there, wrapped in the hoodie. No signs of struggle. No drugs in her system. Only a bruised wrist, a cracked fingernail, and a single page torn from the diary, clenched in her fist. That page said, "No one will read this before it's too late. But I need to say it. If something happens, it wasn't an accident. He told me how he'd do it. I wrote it down." She tried to leave him breadcrumbs, but they were swept away. By disbelief, by red tape, by everyone telling her she was overreacting. And yet she still warned us. He stood in court in a gray suit, not handcuffed, not flinching. When they read the diary aloud, her words, her wounds, her fear, he stared straight ahead. No emotion. The prosecutor asked, "Did you write those final sentences in her diary?" He smiled. "Does it matter now?" No apology. No breakdown. No tearful explanation. Just a smirk. As if he knew he'd already won something, control over the narrative. Even in death, her mother asked for it back. Not to hold as a keepsake. Not to cling to for comfort. But to publish. Page by page. Entry by entry. Because she wanted people to see what fear looks like in ink. To read between the lines that screamed for help. Quietly, politely, until it was too late. And that's what's happening now. In women's shelters. In classrooms. In podcasts. Her diary is now a lifeline for someone else. You'd moved on. Sort of. You made a video about the case. Posted it online. Titled it, "She warned us, we didn't listen." And in the comments section, hidden between thousands of strangers, someone wrote, "He tried to do the same to me, but I left. Because I read her words. She didn't get justice the way she deserved. Not in time. Not with peace. But she got something else. She reached through the silence and pulled someone out of it. And maybe that's how she won." The diary was never meant to be found. But it became the loudest scream she ever made. And now we hear her. We remember. We believe. You stare at the pages one last time. Every warning. Every desperate sentence. Every moment she begged someone, anyone, to believe her. Now it's all catalogued in evidence. Filed under "too late." And the people who dismissed her, they live quietly now. No charges. No accountability. Just shame they carry like shadows that won't speak her name. But her story didn't vanish. It's here now, read by millions who finally understand what silence costs. Because this wasn't just a diary. It was a timeline of a murder written by the victim herself. And nobody listened until it was too late. Subscribe to The Veil of Secret for more true stories that should never be forgotten.